This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
It's going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
What's going on, everybody? Guys and girls, welcome back to another edition of the SmackDown Review right here on the WWE Podcast. As always, I'm the host of this show, Michael Ritter. You can find me on X at Michael5Ritter and also on Instagram at MichaelRitter5. And of course, one of the hosts of the Football Function podcast, available on all your podcasting platforms, including on Patreon, if you prefer an ad-free listening experience. Today we're going to be talking about the SmackDown that aired on December 8th, 2023. Today's December 9th. When I'm recording this, the morning after, I do want to just go ahead and give a quick disclaimer at the very beginning of the show. Hopefully you can't hear it, but I do have a very small space heater underneath my desk. It's pretty much like underneath / right in front of my desk, just blowing at my feet. Spoiler alert, it is cold as hell. Maybe not cold as hell. Cold as balls is maybe a better way to phrase it. Either way, it's like right around 30 degrees. We had snow falling this morning, and a little peek behind the curtain. I live in Texas, so 30 degrees to us here in Texas might be a little bit different to 30 degrees to you guys who live, in the Northeast and the areas that just get a lot more colder weather frequently, So I handle it a lot different. I am not a cold weather guy. I've pointed that out time and time again. It's just something that's not part of my DNA. It's not part of my wiring. I am not a snowboarder or a skier or anything that involves the snow. So whenever we get snow here, most of the time, these Texas drivers, they don't know how to handle it. They don't know how to drive in the snow. They kind of freak out. If we get like 5 or 6 inches of snow, they usually cancel school, because they don't need just accidents happening where kids have a chance of being harmed or school buses being out driving. They sometimes seem to overreact whenever even just a little bit of snow makes its way into our lives. So I did want to just give you that disclaimer. I am aware that noise and podcasting doesn't really go that well together. Sometimes there's this German Shepherd that's out in the backyard. Not my German Shepherd, it's my neighbor's, but our houses are so close together that you could hear it. There's been times where it has 100% affected my recording, and I've had to pause and try to go out there and tell them to be quiet and just say, hey man, I'm over here trying to get this podcasting stuff done. If you just wouldn't mind giving me a little bit of silence for the next 30 minutes or so, I would definitely appreciate it. Maybe throw you a dog treat here or there. Who knows? But hopefully, because of the low temperatures and the fact that there was snow on the ground earlier today, it just makes sense that the dog isn't outside. And the fact that I haven't heard him tells me that he is probably inside staying warm, which I hope is the case, as well as for yourself. I hope that you are staying warm wherever you are. I mean, it's December, so unless you're living in California or maybe Florida, you're probably dealing with the coldest temperatures you've seen all year. I know that we certainly are here, and we're getting through it. And we're also going to get through this episode of SmackDown. And I will say, I thought that this was an above average episode of SmackDown. Typically, for the most part, SmackDown delivers as a pretty good show, but they don't always hit home runs. And I don't necessarily think that tonight was a home run by any means. But whenever you see a show that's kind of taglined tribute to the troops, you expect it to be somewhat of a glorified house show, maybe. You expect it to be pre-recorded. You expect it to not have any type of meaningful storyline developments. That's just pretty much what I've gotten myself used to over the years, is knowing that these shows around December and, around Christmas time, I've just got the news that the Raw that's going to be taking place on Christmas Day, I believe, maybe Christmas Eve. I'm not sure exactly. I don't have a calendar right in front of me. But I did hear that show was going to be a best of. So, not going to be a pre-tape show, not going to be a live edition of Monday Night Raw. It's going to be, just a highlight show of everything that took place over the year, which is what you do here in December, it's somewhat fitting because that's what we're going to do at the end of this show. Not necessarily the best moments of the 2023 year as a whole. We're going to focus on the PLEs. We're looking at things that happened at pay-per-views. So I want to know what your top 5 moments that happened on a premium live event in the calendar 2023 year. So from the Royal Rumble in San Antonio in January to Survivor Series in Chicago, Illinois at the very end of November. This was a pretty loaded year whenever you're talking about meaningful moments. A hell of a year to be a wrestling fan. And it's hard not to feel that arrow trending up. It's hard not to feel like WWE is going in the right direction. You can credit it to Triple H. You can credit it to Endeavor for buying the WWE and pretty much forcing them to do something different. Not necessarily sticking their heads in the meetings or anything like that and saying, hey, do this, do that. But it's almost like, your company that you work for gets bought out. You're working for a new set of people now. You have new bosses. You have new people to report to and new people to please. And instinctively, it seems like you would want to put your best foot forward. You would want to bring your A game and have your fastball. And it seems like WWE is coming out swinging. And just with the talented roster that they have right now, it does seem likely like all these storylines are going to just fall right into their lap. They pretty much have both nights of WrestleMania. They have multiple options for both nights in the main event of WrestleMania. It's not very often that you could say that, where there's probably 5 different scenarios. If I could pitch you 5 different ideas for who could win the Royal Rumble and where they would go after that, who they would face at WrestleMania, and what would happen with the other belt, because the winner of the Royal Rumble is only going to go after either Roman Reigns or Seth Rollins, not both. So the other one is going to have a challenger. So we're going to see multiple meaningful main event worthy programs leading up to WrestleMania. It's what happens whenever you have 2 top championships and a brand split. Just another reason on the long list of things that makes the brand split so special and so important. WrestleMania, especially when you have 2 nights, it just seems like, man, the formula is there. They have the blueprint, and I think we're going to see it, be fully, what's the word I'm looking for, executed. Because that's the thing, just like on a talented football team, you could draw up the perfect play. The player still has to catch the ball. You could call up a fade route, single coverage, the wide receiver versus the cornerback. He beats him by 30 yards. Quarterback puts the ball right on the money. In theory, it was going to work. The play did work, but execution still needs to happen. If the receiver doesn't catch that ball, it's an incomplete pass. So if you look at the creative team in WWE or just the wrestlers in general who are going to be in the ring actually performing, everybody has to do their job and everybody has to execute. And if that happens, then us as wrestling fans, I truly think that we're going to be in for a pretty good treat. I was just thinking about the roster and just looking at all the stars that are just top to bottom on both brands. It's probably been since the Ruthless Aggression era that I've been this pleased with what the WWE landscape looks like from a pure talent perspective. Like just looking at the roster, I'm impressed. I really am. I know that, the babyface pool might be a little bit deeper than the heel pool, but still, it is what it is. That's going to kind of level out. It always does. You're, I guess you're not always going to have this same set of people in the roles that they're in. So you can enjoy it right now. You can enjoy Drew McIntyre being this heel version of himself, but eventually he's probably going to go back to being a babyface. Same thing with Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns has completely just redefined what it means to be a top heel in a company. And, the fans just clamored for him to be a heel for so long. They absolutely wanted it. It was the only thing they wanted. And sure enough, they were proven right. Roman Reigns has been a phenomenal heel, way better than he was ever a babyface. But I do think that now that he has so much credibility, experience, and ultimately just a completely new cult-like following when you look at everybody who throws the ones in the skies, it's night and day difference. So I think that Roman Reigns going back and getting another crack at being a babyface could actually pay off later on in his tenure, and I think that that could be the way that they end his run here in the company. But that is forecasting way in the future. Let's go ahead and get back into the moment, specifically December 8th, 2023 in Providence, Rhode Island. Location breakdown brought to you per usual by DJ Kuzmo. And like I said just a little bit ago, I feel like this was an above average show. The tribute to the troops theme throughout the show, I mean, it started with the very beginning, singing America the Beautiful, or, whatever that song was. That's on me for not knowing off the top of my head. But there was constant reminders throughout the show, just the exact type of, episode of SmackDown you were going to get. And it made me think, why is tribute to the troops so different? They talked about it during the show. It's been 21 years that they've been doing this. 2003, I believe, was whenever it started. And, it used to be so much different. There's a lot of speculation as to why they stopped going to actual military sites and, performing in front of nothing but Army veterans and people who are in the military. So I just kind of did a little bit of research, and I just want to know, what kind of change, what happened? And I guess it was the strategy that really shifted from WWE's perspective. In recent times, WWE made significant changes to its programming strategy, which ultimately affected tribute to the troops. One major shift was focusing more on global expansion and reaching new international markets. As part of the strategy, WWE started hosting more events overseas, resulting in limited resources for producing special shows like Tribute to the Troops. Additionally, WWE faced an increasingly demanding schedule with their multiple weekly shows, pay-per-view events, and international tours. These commitments put strain on their production team and wrestler schedules, making it difficult to allocate time for an additional tribute show. So pretty much this, international version of WWE that we're getting right now could be the reason why we're not seeing Tribute to the Troops every single year. I think that's a little bit of a crutch, in my personal opinion. I think that you could easily do Tribute to the Troops and have this international tour going on multiple times throughout the year. We've seen it, several times. They had pay-per-views in every single country but America for the most part, up until WrestleMania obviously was in Los Angeles and Chicago. But you guys have to admit, Clash at the Castle, Backlash, Elimination Chamber, all these pay-per-views that took place, they weren't on American soil, and that's a good thing. I like the WWE starting to go overseas for these type of big pay-per-views. Just look at the crowd reaction that we're getting. They pop like crazy over there overseas, so I give them credit, and I'm not opposed to it unless they're coming right here to my backyard or somewhere that's extremely close. I don't care where the pay-per-views are. It doesn't really make a difference to me. I just think that WWE is successful enough to make it work. I just feel like, work that in. You have a whole 12 months to plan Tribute to the Troops and your tour schedule, and I just feel like there's a way to have your cake and eat it too, and to please all parties involved with this type of situation. That's just kind of my opinion. I think they could get back to going to actual military bases if it were up to me. Now, obviously, I don't know everything that's going on behind the scenes. I just feel like, why the hell not? Sometimes I feel like WWE, they're not, how to say it, they're obviously not a cheap company. They make a hell of a lot of money. They are a for-profit organization, billion-dollar company. Money is not an issue for WWE. But sometimes they do, I feel like, try to cut corners with the little things, whether it's the production of their video games, whether it's still like, you'll go to live event tours and you will noticeably see that they're trying to sell not all the merch. Obviously, if you go to a show and LA Knight just has been popular for the past few months, you're going to see LA Knight shirts everywhere. But they do certain things, and you could tell it's kind of wash, rinse, repeat. Like you'll get a program and you look at it in 2021 and it says the program was from 2020, or vice versa. You're in 2023 and you're getting a WWE Cup that's from 2021. There's little things like that I've seen. I was like, wow, really? They must not care too much about their live events, or I don't know. They just must. We're talking about resources here. They must be allocating those resources elsewhere, which is perfectly fine. It's just one thing that I've noticed. WWE sometimes like to cut corners, and they sometimes do take the cheap route. Hopefully that's not the case when it comes to trying to dedicate at least, 10, 12 wrestlers in a production team to go to Tribute with the Troops or Tribute to the Troops. And I feel like that would still be a hell of a show, and the people there they'd have a hell of a time getting a chance to see even just a handful of WWE superstars. But with all that stuff out of the way, let's go ahead and get into this episode of SmackDown. And interestingly enough, JBL was on the commentary team. I really wasn't sure why. It just must have felt a little bit special to them. They knew that it was a special show being tribute to the troops. So why not bring somebody like JBL back and have him join Kevin Patrick and Michael Cole there on the commentary team? Now the show actually starts with a United States title tournament round 1 matchup. This one was Santos Escobar versus Dragon Lee. Obviously, Dominic Mysterio comes out to watch from ringside. And the look on Santos's face when Dominic was coming out, just that smirk. I mean, it was just like a couple short months ago, it seems like. It could be a hell of a lot longer. Time really flies by, especially this year, it seems. But whenever Santos Escobar was pretty much defending Rey Mysterio's honor during the whole WrestleMania build up to that match, and it just seemed like he quickly turned, and now he's like, ooh, just thrilled to see Dominic. I don't know, it just seemed like it all happened too fast, and that look that he gave him definitely bothered me, and I guess that's what it was supposed to do, so he's doing his job, being a phenomenal heel, but something about Santos and just that whole dynamic with the Mysterios, I guess it rubbed me the wrong way, and it just makes me feel like he's a little bit of a snake, but hey, nonetheless, that's, what he's trying to portray. That's what he's doing. So credit to him for doing a damn good job. Santos does win this match with a Phantom Driver after stealing control of the match by causing Dragon Lee to rack himself on the top turnbuckle. Dominic gets in the ring after the match is over to taunt Dragon Lee and then spits his gum at him. One of the most disrespectful things you could possibly do. Hopefully they got that gum out of the ring so it doesn't get in anybody's hair or stuck to anybody's shoe. But nonetheless, why the hell would you spit your gum at somebody? That's like flicking a cigarette at somebody, man. That's just, no matter what, on site, I'm punching you in the face if you spit your gum. Like, I don't know. That's just, obviously it's pro wrestling, but that's just something. Just, if you need any type of, advice from the show, I highly recommend not ever spitting gum at anybody. I don't think you would. If you're a listener to this show, you're probably a good person. You're probably someone who, is a smart individual, and I expect you to make better decisions than what Dominic Mysterio makes. Let's just go ahead and say that. So shout out to you for being a stand-up person. Let's go ahead and give you a random shout out here on the show. And also, Dom, get your head out of your rear end, bud. I don't need you spitting gum in any way. Number one, that's disgusting. Number two, thank God he had a mask on, because probably hit him like in the chest or something like that anyway, but I don't know. Just people's mouths. That's always been something that grosses me the hell out. And yeah, I'd prefer not to have anybody spit their gum at me. But nonetheless, let's go ahead and move on here. Randy Orton visits Nick Aldis in his office. He questions his decision to put him in a tag team match tonight with LA Knight against the Bloodline. Nick pretty much just says, yeah, the fans want to see it. I want to see it. So it's going to happen. He has a check in his hand. And I was kind of wondering, what the hell is that? Apparently that check was given to him by Randy Orton. It was a fine for the RKO that Nick Aldis received last week. And the fine was for $50,000. But the check was for $100,000. And Nick quickly tells him, like, hey, your check was $50,000 more than what it was supposed to be. And Orton just clarifies, yeah, that's for next time. Pretty much already just telling him, like, yeah, there's going to be another one soon. As long as you do your job, you pretty much don't have to worry about it. But at the same time, I'm Randy Orton, and I RKO whoever the hell I want. Let's see here. Up next, Cody Rhodes comes out to address the crowd and also thank the servicemen and women and give a massive shout out to the 21-year tradition that is Tribute to the Troops, which is followed by a nice video package centered around John Cena and all of his contributions over the years to this event. And after the video package is over, Cody introduces the United States Army Drill Team. A nice little moment there for people in attendance and obviously anybody who's connected to the armed forces. Let's see here. Brad Nessler, he makes a special appearance on commentary for the following match. Brad Nessler, you might have known him. You definitely have recognized his voice if you're a sports fan, a football fan. He calls the Army versus Navy game. I believe he works for CBS, maybe ABC. Not 100% sure. That's definitely on me. But he's a pretty popular voice in college football. So if you watch college football, you probably know exactly who Brad Nessler is. And just seeing him in the WWE setting on that commentary booth with Michael Cole, JBL, and Kevin Patrick, it was a little bit of a crossover, like, seeing Jimmy Neutron and Timmy Turner in the same episode. It's like, what the hell are we doing here? This is kind of strange, which I will say, side note, that was a pretty cool thing that Nickelodeon did back in the early 2000s, was whenever they had that crossover, because clearly Jimmy Neutron, 3D show, just completely different animation than what Fairly Odd Parents was with, Timmy Turner and Cosmo and Wanda. And then they switched, like whenever Timmy went to Jimmy Neutron's world, he was all 3D and he had that animation, and then vice versa. Whenever Jimmy Neutron went to the Fairly Odd Parents episode, he was a little bit different looking himself. Just if you're a Nickelodeon fan, that was a quick reference I wanted to make there. One of the best all-time crossovers, really, that I've ever seen. But we get another United States Championship Tournament Round 1 match here. Former United States Army Sergeant Bobby Lashley versus Karrion Kross. And as soon as they, played the little video package for Bobby Lashley and you knew his history with the Army, there was no way in hell that they were going to have him lose this match. So let's be honest. They would have pissed off the crowd. It wouldn't have fit the theme of the show, which is truly send everybody home happy. And that's pretty much what happened throughout the entire night. Bobby Lashley does get this win, and he advances to face Santos Escobar in round 2 in this tournament, in the semifinals. This was a relatively smooth victory for Bobby Lashley. I expect next week to be a relatively smooth victory for him as well. He's been the United States champion not even that long ago. I could see him getting another run here with this belt, but up against Logan Paul, it's hard to really forecast who they're going to have, go head to head with him. I don't think that Logan Paul is going to have a long title reign, but they're going to be very careful with who beats him. I promise you that. They're not just going to have anybody get the win over him. I still pick Kevin Owens to win this tournament, by the way. But Bobby Lashley, he 100% was not going to lose in round 1, and he damn sure was not going to win the night of tribute to the troops. So kind of just book that. If you're into sports gambling, that for sure would have been one that you hammer. Bobby Lashley getting the win. Moving on here, we get Damage Control backstage, trying to get Asuka ready for her match up against Charlotte. The awkward vibes with Bayley continue as their moods clearly change whenever she appears, like they're all kind of joking, having a good time. Bayley pops up, she appears on camera. They all get kind of quiet. You can just see their body language just shifts. As soon as Bayley pops up, as soon as she inserts herself into the picture, you can just feel it's cringe. I'm not really into that type of stuff. Just it makes me have that secondhand embarrassment. Like, I feel sorry for Bayley at this point because, number one, she's talented as hell. But this version of her character, it seems like she has this coming, and I'm excited to see this bad boy come to a wrap. I'm not saying I want it to hurry, but the culmination, without a doubt, was going to be interesting. It just seems like with how they're kind of putting their foot on the gas with it here lately, it seems like a Royal Rumble culmination. Like, it seems like it's going to come to its head at the Royal Rumble, whether somebody gets eliminated by somebody else. Maybe Bayley goes on a tirade and she eliminates everybody from Damage Control from the Royal Rumble. There's a lot of different routes you can go here. But let's see. Bayley volunteers to stay in the back again after what happened last week with Kairi Sane. She pretty much says, hey, I'll stay in the back and I won't go to ringside tonight. But apparently Damage Control were already leaning that way, and they had already made that decision way before Bayley. However, the other three, Dakota Kai, Io Sky, and Kairi Sane, they're all going to be in Asuka's corner tonight. But they all voted that Bayley, stays in the back. Of course, they want to go out there, though, because they, quote-unquote, don't know what Charlotte's capable of. So, clearly, there's just, a wedge, a massive wedge. There's some friction, some animosity. It's obvious. And like I said, Royal Rumble, I'm circling that as the event where maybe things can get a little bit more juicy. And then probably head to a WrestleMania program between Bayley and Io Sky. That just seems like where they're going. They're so close to that, like that mark. Like, they're so close to getting to that point in this calendar year where it started, SummerSlam, maybe even earlier. I'm not sure when the divide started where Bayley was kind of going out of her way to make life more difficult for Io Sky, volunteering her multiple times to defend that championship. I remember that. It was pretty entertaining stuff. But I'm excited for where this bad boy's going. If you can't tell already, this has been a nice slow burn, and it's probably going to only get better from this point on. Up next in the show, CM Punk makes his return to SmackDown after nearly 10 years. That's crazy. Without a doubt, the first time I've covered CM Punk in the WWE podcast. Like, yeah, I've talked about him when he was on Monday Night Raw and he made his comeback at Survivor Series. I gave my opinion, but this is the first time that a segment came on WWE television that involved CM Punk, and I was responsible for covering it. It was a little bit of a surreal moment, and I thought it was pretty cool, just being completely honest. It is like coming full circle. I'm not the type of person that's going to just be stuck in my ways and die on a hill, you know? Like, it's pretty evident when you look at the whole LA Knight thing. I was pretty vocal early in this process with LA Knight. The whole "yeah" chant, like, that wasn't for me at first. I felt like it was it wasn't organic, which clearly I couldn't have been more wrong. Whenever I did some research after that, after opening my mouth on a podcast, you see that no, he's been doing this for a pretty long time, and the crowd obviously gravitates to it, and going to multiple WWE shows, including one all the way back in January, seeing how over LA Knight really is. Obviously, I'm not just going to be stubborn and say, yeah, I'm still thinking that this isn't the way to go. Like, no, clearly I was wrong, and I'm man enough to admit it. Just like I'm willing to, change my opinion on CM Punk. It's pretty obvious. I've vocalized it in the past. I was not a CM Punk guy. His run in WWE, I caught the very beginning of it before I kind of, started to slowly distance myself. Meanwhile, he's only rising in the company, and there's a reason why he has a cult-like following and a massive fan base that follows him, whether they leave WWE, they go with him to AEW, now they're coming back to WWE. If somebody has that type of following, clearly they're doing something right, and I'm looking forward to seeing CM Punk on WWE. Probably won't be on SmackDown. The promo that he's about to cut kind of made me feel that he's coming to SmackDown to make an appearance and to check that off his bucket list or just his to-do list in the drought, the 10-year drought since he's appeared on SmackDown. But I think it's pretty obvious that he's going to choose Raw. That's just my hunch. But he comes out to the ring and he immediately points out that a segment tonight is in the middle of the show instead of the end, so he doesn't have to worry about his time getting cut short. Obviously referencing his first promo on Monday Night Raw, it went pretty short. And a lot of people were just expecting more on his first time picking up a WWE microphone in so long that, I forgot which match it was. Was it Dominic Mysterio and Drew McIntyre? I'm not sure which match it was. That's on me. I'm not a Raw review guy, all right? But I do know that a match that went on right before CM Punk was going to close out the show, that match went on just a little bit too long, and it caused CM Punk to have to, cut his speech a little bit short. Luckily, that did not happen tonight. I feel like we got a pretty good promo from him. He also mentions that Adam Pearce is trying pretty hard to sign him into Monday Night Raw, which does not surprise me. Adam Pearce seems extremely desperate here lately. It could just be my SmackDown bias, but seeing Adam Pearce, appear on SmackDown and just trying to create that, that tension between Nick Aldis, it's just one of those things that I'm like, hey, chill out, Adam Pearce. But I get it. You want to sign CM Punk. I feel like he fits on Monday Night Raw a little bit better. It's just kind of the, the flagship show. CM Punk is without a doubt a big name. Having him on SmackDown, I feel like, that's having not too much testosterone. Obviously, it's the WWE. These are grown men. But having somebody like Roman Reigns and CM Punk on the same show, I just don't know if that would work out, for the long term, which, how long is the long term whenever you're talking about CM Punk? How often is he going to be on the show? But he made it seem like he is back, like back. He also mentions possibly winning the Royal Rumble and main eventing WrestleMania. Apparently, he is going to be brand exclusive, and he's trying to decide where he is going to take his talents. He starts to name drop some people like Cody Rhodes, the Usos, Roman Reigns, Randy Orton, LA Knight, and Kevin Owens. He makes a quick AEW reference whenever he mentions that, it's 2023 and you can't just punch people in the face backstage. And, this goes right over the heads of the people that are in attendance. They really didn't pop. There wasn't a ooh or like anything like that, no type of chant. I feel like this is pretty evident, and this is the type of, I guess, I'm trying to think of how to phrase this, but this is the type of example that you need to show someone whenever, you're telling them, like, look, AEW is not on the radar of most wrestling fans. Like, when I say most, obviously that's kind of I don't know, I don't want to just put everybody in one box, because I know there are diehard AEW fans, but the casual wrestling fan really does not pay attention to AEW, and that's just, that's a fact. It is what it is. not necessarily hating on AEW by saying that. It's just, it's a fact. I know wrestling fans that pop in here and there. If I say, hell yeah, do you watch AEW? They're like, what the hell is that? It's just not something that the casual fan is going to pick up. And I feel like the fact that it completely went over the audience's head, obviously some people in the crowd were like, ooh, man, I got that, But for the most part, people were like, yeah, cool. Don't punch anybody in the face backstage. Yeah, I agree with that. Cool. But I just feel like that moment right there told me all I needed to know about what the perspective is in AEW, and I hope that they can stay around. I hope that they continue to be an alternative. There's rumors that MJF has already signed a long-term extension with AEW, and it's just been kind of kept, under wraps. But I do have concerns just long-term about how good this company is going to be, especially like I talked about with WWE, just seeming like their era was pointing up, and they're about to enter a hell of an era. I can't say the same for AEW, but at the same time, I am not necessarily the right person to ask about AEW. So there are people out there who can give you a lot better of an idea on, what their landscape is going forward now that they don't have some of the people who have obviously left the company, but there's still some there that are more than worthy of building around. But CM Punk continues on by talking about how great it feels to be welcomed back with open arms, except for one person. But he says he's not going to put any stock into what he says, and it's not because of his whiny voice. It's because he's not even the man in his own household. We've heard that before. I'm not sure who said it, but I know that I've heard that line before being used against Seth Rollins. It does seem like some low-hanging fruit, but what could you expect? He's just pretty much taking what he can get right now. It's his first promo on SmackDown, his first actual not promo cut short. Give him a little bit of time. CM Punk will get cooking. I really believe that. But this is where I kind of feel like the hand was tipped a little bit, because he says that on Monday Night Raw in Cleveland, he's going to make his decision. He's going to decide whether it's going to be Raw, whether it's going to be SmackDown, or possibly even NXT, because Shawn Michaels called him. We can go ahead and rule that one out. They're trying to make NXT feel, important and like a third brand, but come on. CM Punk is not going to go to NXT. That's pretty obvious. I think it's going to be Raw. He says that he's rubbed people the wrong way being back because he's that proverbial monkey wrench in their future plans. But he's back for one reason, and that is to finish what he started. He wants to finish his story, and that is to main event WrestleMania. Mic drop. Literally, he dropped mic. And I feel like that is right there for the taking for him. Like, he could easily be in the main event of WrestleMania 40 in Philadelphia. Like, dude, think about this. I already talked about it. WrestleMania 20, far and away, my favorite WrestleMania. And here we are 20 years later from that moment, and we have a chance to have this type of WrestleMania, like this type of card. Like, you want to put all your eggs in one basket. You want to, I wouldn't mind getting 2 nights of Roman Reigns, right? Give me Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes on the first night of WrestleMania. Night 2, have CM Punk win the Royal Rumble. Screw it. Normally, I would never advocate for somebody like CM Punk to win the Rumble. It's for a young person who needs that type of push, that type of, kickstart to their career. I typically would not, side with CM Punk, but I just think the story is there for him to win the Rumble, go after that World Heavyweight Championship, face Seth Rollins in night 2 in the main event. But at the same time, the whole reason I said have Cody Rhodes go against Roman Reigns on night 1 is so you could have The Rock versus Roman Reigns in night 2. But are you going to have The Rock versus Roman Reigns and it not be a main event? See, that's where WWE is kind of getting themselves into a good problem, being you have a lot of options and they all make so much sense that it's hard to leave them on the table. It's hard to pull the trigger on one and just say, we'll save that for another time, because you never know if another time will come. So I totally understand that, but this was a great promo by CM Punk, and it got me excited. It got me fantasy booking and thinking what could possibly happen going forward. And, needless to say, and I've pretty much been the theme of this episode, is WWE is in a pretty good spot going forward, and I cannot wait to see what's in store for CM Punk. Up next, though, CM Punk is shown walking backstage. He walks by the Bloodline's locker room. He almost knocks on the door, and he doesn't. That was just kind of a little bit of a tease, maybe a seed being planted. Kevin Owens walks up to him. They kind of get face-to-face. He says, hey, do you know where Nick Aldis' office is? And Kevin Owens says no, and they kind of just go their separate ways. Definitely going to be something there in the future, 100%. I feel like that's going to be damn near better than the Seth Rollins and CM Punk. Now, hear me out. I understand there's a lot of tension between Seth and Cody, which is going to set the expectations pretty high. And, with expectations comes, like we just said, execution. And you have to execute and you have to live up to those expectations. Whereas CM Punk and Kevin Owens, I feel like there would be no expectations. It would just be, hey, let's see what these guys got and have some fun. And it would probably blow those false expectations out of the water and over-deliver. And that's why I'm really excited to see Kevin Owens end up crossing paths with CM Punk. And moving on in the show, we get the match we were talking about earlier, Charlotte versus Asuka. Damage Control tries to come out with Asuka, but they're taken out immediately by Michin and Zelina Vega, trying to even the odds and ensure that this is going to be a one-on-one match. The sloppiness from the attack, just, the sell by Kairi Sane to, the terrible shots from Zelina Vega. They could have done better. It was not, it doesn't get a passing grade for me, just from not the idea to have Zelina Vega and Michin come out and attack Damage Control to try to even the odds. That makes sense. But just go watch it. Like, seriously, go watch that attack and just tell me, oh, yeah, that's good. They all did a great job right there. Like, no, wrestling is supposed to be believable. We all know what's going on. Doesn't mean that the punches have to look completely god-awful. And, this whole segment was full of botches, clearly, because we'll get to it. Bayley does eventually come out. She cost Charlotte the match, but the bigger story here is the real-life knee injury that Charlotte suffered due to a botch on the top rope. Now, botches happen. These are professionals. Charlotte and Asuka, you would trust them 10 times out of 10 to put on a safe match for both themselves and their opponent. This is just one of those freak accidents that happened, but nonetheless, if you go watch the replay, there's a crowd video. Someone was in the crowd and they recorded. You see the exact moment that Charlotte got hurt. Just fell off that top turnbuckle. She stumbled on the ropes, clearly hit her knee. I don't know what's going on. If I were to guess, they'd probably be safe with it. Maybe she takes some time off. I don't expect it to be like a super, oh my gosh, she tore ACL or anything like that. I don't think it's going to be that serious, but I do know that knee injuries are nothing to play with, especially when you're getting close to Royal Rumble / WrestleMania season. It's like having one of your star players kind of get dinged up, but you already have a playoff spot clinched. Of course you're going to play it safe with your star player and have them ready to go for the playoffs. So I feel like they're going to do the same thing with Charlotte. They're going to play it safe and have her well and ready to go for this stretch run that is WrestleMania season, where we always get the best of Charlotte Flair. It's just, you got to be careful out there. This is not a mattress and a pillow that they're landing on. These wrestlers put their body in harm's way more often than not. It's a brutal lifestyle. I talk about it all the time, and this was just evident of that. And we do get the main event between Randy Orton and LA Knight versus Jimmy Uso and Solo Sikoa. I will say RIP to Barefoot Solo. I don't know if this is just a one-time thing. Maybe he has an injury on his foot and he had to keep it covered up. But he did come out in wrestling shoes, which is not what we're used to seeing with him. Hopefully he comes back, with his ankles taped and barefoot, because we don't really see that a lot. And it did add to his character. It made him, much more of a badass and just look like that, traditional Samoan wrestler. But Randy Orton does win this match with his partner LA Knight, but Randy Orton gets the pin with a RKO on Jimmy Uso, which is several weeks in a row now that Jimmy Uso has been the one laying flat on his back as SmackDown goes off the air. Just, talking back to last week whenever I believe he got RKO'd again by Randy Orton, and he laid in the ring for pretty much the whole time that the people were trying to set up for the dark match. Randy Orton left the ring after RKO and Jimmy Uso. Everybody else left the ring. Nick Aldis, Adam Pearce. Next thing you know, Jimmy Uso's still in there laying down, and they're pretty much having to roll him out of the ring. Phenomenal sell job. The people that were there in attendance probably got a nice little treat seeing Jimmy Uso just mess around and have a little fun. It's always nice whenever you could tell that they're having some fun and they're actually enjoying what it is that they're doing and dedicating their life to. Now, that does do it for the SmackDown review portion of this episode. Like I mentioned, stack them up Saturday. We are going to talk about the top 5 PLE moments of 2023. Just whether they're, something that happened in a match, that happened on a pay-per-view, just an actual return, or just, a big-time moment from this pretty, juicy or oozy 2023. So I will go ahead and get into it. My honorable mention, Ray spanking Dom at WrestleMania 39. That moment made me pop. I feel like there's parents all across the world that just related to that moment so well, and the fact that he, took his belt off and actually got a chance to whoop Dom. One of the best moments in that entire pay-per-view. Not even exaggerating. I truly felt like that right there kind of stole the show for me. Number 5, AJ and Seth Rollins put on a very classic match to determine the first ever WWE Modern World Heavyweight Champion. Seth Rollins still holds that belt, so clearly that match was a pretty meaningful one. You couldn't have had two better superstars in that match, so I definitely, I had to mark that one down. And I remember in the moment thinking, man, this is special. We got AJ Styles versus Seth Rollins. The winner gets to bring back my favorite belt of all time and be the first World Heavyweight Champion here in this modern, version or iteration of it. Definitely pretty meaningful. Number 4, Sami Zayn battles Roman Reigns in front of his home crowd at Elimination Chamber. This one was good just because of the build-up to it. You knew what was at stake. Nobody thought Sami Zayn was going to win, but you knew that he earned the spot to be in that main event, and we were all happy for him. Another person that had a hometown experience. At number 3, Bad Bunny main events Backlash and puts on a show, gains the respect of wrestling fans all over the world, had arguably the best entrance in the whole 2023 calendar year whenever he had his own song come on, the sold-out crowd just singing it word for word, and just, the vibes. This is sometimes wrestling is made or broken by whether or not the vibes are good, and it's hard to doubt how good the vibes were that night in Puerto Rico for Bad Bunny. Number 2, one that I was there for in attendance, Sami Zayn turns on Roman Reigns at the Royal Rumble. That chair shot was heard around the world. That pop was massive. I can still get chills thinking about it, just, knowing how big the moment was, knowing what was at stake and just seeing it coming, knowing that Roman Reigns was just pushing his head, just shoving his head, and Sami Zayn finally had enough, took that chair, went right to Roman Reigns. The rest is history, but that moment right there just, I know, out of all the events I've been to over the years, obviously WrestleMania 38, getting a chance to see Stone Cold Steve Austin wrestle for the first time in 19 years or whatever it was. Seeing other events happen over the years too, but outside of the Stone Cold Steve Austin match, Sami Zayn turning on Roman Reigns was probably the coolest thing I've ever seen as a wrestling fan in person. Number 1, obviously, could be prisoner of the moment, recency bias, whatever you want to call it. CM Punk returning at Survivor Series War Games in Chicago. Truly, the Hell Froze Over shirts, that tagline, they're marketing it. It's the truth. I never expected that. Not in a million years. I didn't want it. I saw the toxic environment that was AEW. I thought maybe CM Punk had a lot to do with that. He might not have. He might have, obviously. We'll never know. But I'm willing, like I said, to give him a chance and see how he does here in WWE. I feel like he deserves it. Stories, they don't always have to have I almost cursed there. They don't always have to have a bad ending. They don't always have to, leave you just, damn it, just wanting more and just never getting a chance to know what if, what could have happened. And I truly think that the story and the saga of CM Punk deserved a proper ending. And it probably feels like a huge weight was lifted off of his shoulders because, have you ever gotten in an argument with a really good friend or, just got on bad terms with someone or something that meant a lot to you at one point? And, being without it, whether you admit it or not, whether you even acknowledge it or not, there might be a sense of pressure that's kind of on you, a sense of stress, anxiety. Just there's a lot of different feelings or emotions that you could feel whenever something like that happens because we're all human. CM Punk is a human. The WWE was his actual job. And this was actually a real situation that happened to him. And he had to kind of just bury it for 10 years and just kind of deal with it. No, well, this is what was meant to happen. Here we are. And, we're making the best of the situation. You don't ever think that you're going to get a second chance. You don't ever think that you're going to get another opportunity. And that kind of happens with with anything in life. Sometimes you think that the story's over. You think that this moment in time, this event, it came and it went and it was what it was. Life is such a marathon. Life is long. It's supposed to be really long where there's a good chance you're going to cross paths multiple times with people and places. And, it's up to you to grow and it's up to you to be better because, Triple H was right. You're not supposed to be the same person you are or you were 10 years ago. If that's the case, then something went wrong along the way. And, I feel like with CM Punk, with Triple H, with where the company is, it just seems like now is the perfect time. And the vibes are great, man. I'm really loving it. This is truly a great time to be a wrestling fan. I'm truly honored to be here on the WWE podcast and, be the host. of the SmackDown review. I do not take it for granted. I love that, you guys come back every week and tune into this show. Hopefully you'll continue to give feedback. Let me know what I can do to make this show better, because that's all it's really about. If you guys are enjoying the show, that's really all that matters to me. So really quickly, I'm going to run through my top 5 PLE moments of 2023 one more time just to kind of freshen up your memory. The honorable mention, Rey Mysterio spanking Dominic Mysterio at WrestleMania. Number 5, AJ versus Seth for the World Heavyweight Championship. Number 4, Sami Zayn versus Roman Reigns in front of his home crowd at Elimination Chamber. Number 3, Bad Bunny, main events Backlash in Puerto Rico, also in front of his hometown. Sami Zayn at number 2, whenever he turned on Roman Reigns at the Royal Rumble. And the number 1, CM Punk returning once and for all. Let me know what you guys want me to stack them up next week. Let me know what you guys want to hear here on the show, because I'm open to any and all suggestions. We're getting into a new year. We're creeping up into 2024. So yeah, I definitely want to make sure that the show is going in the right direction and make sure that the arrow is pointing up. And the best is always yet to come. That goes out for everything, just the Raw review, the SmackDown review, the mailbag. Yes, what we've done up to this point, great. I'm extremely proud to be part of this WWE podcast team. But I would be lying if I told you that I thought that our best days were behind us. I truly believe that the best is yet to come. We haven't even scratched the surface for what this is going to be, the type of platform that this is going to be. Go over to Football Function. It's the same energy over there. We're trying to grow that podcast. It would mean the world to me if you would be a listener or, just involved in that. Maybe subscribe over on Patreon, get ad-free episodes. That's, it's a nice plus. You also get early access to episodes. That also goes with it. But nonetheless, guys, hope you all have a damn good rest of your weekend. Stay warm wherever it is that you are. Enjoy this, Christmas season if you celebrate. If not, just enjoy the time with your family. And like I said, man, I cannot make this more clear. I cannot say it enough. Bundle up and stay warm. I do not want to see anybody freeze. And that meme, I don't know if it's Home Alone or something, where the dude has icicles coming out of his nose and off of his hair. We don't need to see any of that. We need to keep everybody warm, and we can all have a nice, good, enjoyable winter here as we close up 2023. But one more time, guys, have a damn good weekend. Walk passionately in the direction of your dreams, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.